We are rounding out our time tonight on OpenLine, talking with the Legal Aid Society's DarKenya Waller, the executive director. DarKenya, once again, thank you so much for joining us tonight. I want to close talking about a few different things, but first let's talk about workplace issues. And something on the top of mind and on the top of news right now is President Biden's vaccine mandate for the workplace. I wonder if you're seeing many questions about that, any advice to workers who say, I don't want to get the vaccine. Things are kind of in limbo in the courts now, too.
Sure. Yeah, they are. And it's almost a game of, what is the latest law so that I can follow that. And it really has put many employers and employees in an interesting predicament. The legislation that's out there now, the orders, I should say, the orders that are out there now, first of all, apply to employers of 100 and more. And so that really doesn't apply to everyone. There's a lot of people who are working who this just doesn't apply to. But for those who are in situations where there's 100 or more employees, it actually does apply to you. And many, like you said, many state legislators are making attempts to overturn that, to curtail that. But again, it's what's the most current law, and that is the law of the land at the moment. And so people have to carefully choose how they want to respond to that. That's not something that we at the Legal Aid Society directly address, mainly because our emphasis is the basic necessities of life. That's where our focus is, on housing and food and shelter and safety and things like that. And so that this is not something that a person could necessarily call legal aid for representation on. But again, I would, warn any person, or not warn, but advise any person who, is contemplating, what they should do, is that, you should reach out to an attorney. You absolutely should, and get guidance, because the law is changing and changing rapidly.
It certainly is. And I'm glad you kind of brought up this is what we do and what we don't, but I want to dive into that a little bit more. We have your website on the screen, which thank goodness it is so easy to remember, las.org for Legal Aid Society. But if you could just briefly tell us, what exactly do you do and who qualifies for that help?
Sure. So because we do receive federal funding in some form, we do have to comply with those rules. And so there are certain things we can and cannot do. I will tell you that we are unable to represent persons who are currently incarcerated. We cannot do criminal cases. And, in the balance of resources, the public defender's office handles criminal matters, we handle civil matters, and never the two shall meet. They cover theirs, we cover ours. But we are unable to represent persons who are undocumented unless they are victims of crime. If they are victims of a crime, we absolutely are able to assist them in their legal needs. But generally speaking, we don't do general immigration or things like that. But what we do, we are fortunate to cover a breadth of things that we can do. We cover bankruptcy. We do bankruptcies, particularly Chapter 7s. We don't really do Chapter 13s, but we cover bankruptcy. Consumer protection. If there is a contractor who botched the job on your home, or a vehicle you purchased that's not operating properly, or an argument with a creditor who is improperly charging you, or a debt collector who's improperly pursuing a debt against you. We do all of those. We do education cases where children who may be needing IEPs or 504 plans, elder law representing seniors who may be dealing with Social Security issues, or challenges with caregivers, conservatorships, guardianships.
So
all
many
of that.
things. And before we run out of time, because we really only have about 30 seconds, you also
Absolutely.
need support. How can people support your efforts?
Absolutely. If you go to our website at las.org, las.org/donate. As I mentioned, we are a nonprofit organization. We survive on grants and donations. And if you believe that it's not okay in America for someone to not be represented just because they don't have the money to fight the IRS or the landlord or the bank,
Then
that's
reach
what
out
we
and help.
do.
Yeah.
That's what we do.
DarKenya, thank you so much for spending the last hour with us. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thanks.